Okay, guys, what's up? It is week 108, and first and foremost, I want to address the shirt I'm wearing. It is a 22 Shots of Moods and Horror t-shirt. If you guys aren't familiar with where this is from, it's a podcast. They have a group page on Facebook. Check it out. If you're interested in buying one, link will be below. They're really good guys. They just did their first run of shirts. There's still some left in all the sizes, I think, so they sent this nice little postcard. I think that's From Beyond the Grave, the Amicus anthology, and they wrote something on the back. I'm going to read it. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to read it. Dave, thanks for being one of the YouTubers that hasn't turned into a phony bitch. Thanks for the years of entertainment and knowledge. We hope you enjoy the shirt. Thanks again, 22 Shots. So that's pretty fun. Yeah, not talking crap about other YouTubers, but yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Keep what you're doing. It's a great podcast. A lot of the stuff on Horrorphilia is actually really good. Exploding Heads, 22 Shots, The Horror Mafia, Cinema Attack. They got lots of good podcasts going on over there. Banana Laser helps the work week go by way quicker. So check them out, guys. Horrorphilia. The links for the 22 Shot site will be below, so you can buy the shirt. Check out their podcast. Moods, Jeremy, and JP. They're all great guys. They all have YouTube channels as well. But the first I wanted to talk about, just briefly, it's going to be a brief one, maybe that within a minute deal, but it's not going to be a minute because I'm going to screw that up. So it's just going to be brief. What is that? You know what? This title, it always drives me nuts because I just see it as the new Ted Bundy movie, the Zac Efron. Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. Okay, that's the title of this movie. The title is something that the judge told Bundy in his trial. Okay, like I said, similar to Lords of Chaos, more modern movies that are based in fact or a true story, they kind of bother me. They rub me the wrong way a lot of times, and this one's no different. Zac Efron is great as Ted Bundy. In fact, the supporting cast, for the most part, is really good as well. You'll see a lot of familiar faces in here, and I don't think I should tell you the familiar faces because half the fun of the movie is watching them pop up, even though if you watch the credits, you'll see them. So I'm going to tell you, because if you watch the credits, you're watching me, you'll see it. John Malkovich, Dylan Baker, who else pops up? Terry Kenny. So I was just like, oh, wow, this has a really good cast. Everybody does a really good job. It's shot well. It's acted well. But it's just a strange story, and I can't get this out of my head. After listening to the Shockwaves podcast, Rob Galuzzo mentioned that the script originally never let you know it was Ted Bundy until the middle mark or somewhere around there. So I'm watching that with that in my head, and I'm sitting there and thinking, okay, yeah, they're kind of portraying Ted Bundy as a possibly that he's innocent, and it's by his girlfriend's point of view. And I'm thinking, this doesn't work because, A, it's Ted Bundy. Everybody knows the crimes, and they've already said his name if they wouldn't have said his name. But it's never going to work anyways when you cast Zac Efron in the lead role, such a big actor. The publicity is going to go through the roof, and everybody's going to know, hey, Zac Efron's playing Ted Bundy. It can't be kept secret, but then again, no one will be interested if it wasn't Ted Bundy or Zac Efron. So you're kind of shoot yourself in the foot. You're kind of screwed. It would have been a much more impactful movie if they used a smaller, lesser-known killer, but then has that ever happened, kind of? Bundy had that charm. Did it happen with other people not knowing this serial killer? I don't understand. Maybe it's just such a hard... It doesn't really work in today's age, to be honest. It's just strange. But as far as the acting, I thought the acting was really well done. I thought that Zac Efron as Bundy was really good. But I don't like the fact that they're making Bundy sympathetic or human, because I honestly don't think Bundy was human at all. I think the only time he ever showed emotion was in front of people to manipulate them. I really believe that. As everybody's like, nobody's evil, nobody is... Bundy, I think, playing the long game was all manipulation, and he loved to manipulate. He loved to control. He loved to pull the strings. And, this is just a dumbass fucking psychology 101 bullshit. Mrparka has no real knowledge of it and just talking out of his ass like everybody else does. So that's what I'm doing. But the fact is they show Zac Efron alone, and he's crying over someone else. But it's not like he's crying for himself. He's crying for the loss of someone. And it's just like, I don't buy that Bundy gave a shit. I don't really think he was human. I really don't. That's just how I feel strongly about it. But it's just the whole... I'm so over Ted Bundy. I probably shouldn't even talked about this, but I hate Ted Bundy, and I don't like seeing him portrayed as human. I don't care if that makes me less human. That's how I feel. And that's why the movie kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. And there's so many needle drops in this movie. And it's like, I love a perfectly placed needle drop. There's some directors who do it wonderfully. There's some movies that do it spectacularly. But this movie has a needle drop like every 30 seconds. It's not as bad as Kong Skull Island. But it's just like sometimes they are all right, but then other times you're like, I think this scene would have worked better without the needle drop. Regardless, you know, a lot of the outfits are great, the makeup's really good. It's not this gory, violent thing. It's, you know, the other side of the story to a certain extent, but it's part of a story that I don't. It's a narrative that I don't think really exists with Bundy being human at all. And maybe they're like, well, that's what we're trying. I don't know what their intent was. Maybe I misread it, but regardless, that's on Netflix, so check it out if you're interested.
Do you remember the night we met?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been witness to the unspeakable horrors of the defendant's heinous crimes. You have seen ghastly injuries, smashed in faces, broken jaws.
Will the defendant please rise?
For years, I've carried this guilt that I'm to blame for everything. If only I hadn't trusted you.
Promise you'll never leave me, Liz.
It's about another missing girl, isn't it? Ted, did you do it?
No.
We've got a very disturbed, sick individual.
You'll be the first nationally televised trial in history.
You look nice, partner.
I'm disguised as an attorney today.
I get very scared, but, you know, he's also really dreamy.
There are things you don't know that will shock you beyond your worst nightmares.
It's all a lie.
It is a capital murder case, and you are skating on thin ice.
This is about catching a monster.
I wish I could take it all back. What about me? I love you. Get out!
The killings were extremely wicked, shockingly evil, vile.
Did you do these things, Ted?
This is all gonna end.
It's only gonna end with the truth.
Okay, guys, the next one is from Arrow Video, and this is kind of weird. Like, I've heard the title of this movie, but I never really paid much attention to it. I don't know why. The Andromeda Strand. And it's directed by Robert Wise, which kind of blows my mind because you guys know Robert Wise did The Haunting, the original Haunting. So he's like a classic director. This is also based off a book by Michael Crichton, you know, Jurassic Park, Coma, a slew of things. So it's like, okay, what's this going on? I put this in. It's 1970. Right off the bat, I was like, man, Stephen King's The Stand really, you know, the opening, I know it was based off a book, but the miniseries really feels a lot like this movie. We have this small town who basically everybody in it dies. Nobody knows how it happened. So they call in this special team to figure it out, go in, take samples, and they go to work in an underground lab. That's the plot of this movie, and the whole plot of the whole film is them trying to figure out what it is, how to contain it, how dangerous it is. And, you know, for a movie that seems like you're like, oh, this is kind of the Outbreak kind of story where it's like paranoia, biological chemicals possible, all sorts of things going on, sci-fi stuff, but it's terrifying. The acting is really convincing and well done, and they're familiar faces, but they're not so familiar that they take you out of the movie at all, and that's kind of perfect for this. And it feels like such, like, you see the government bureaucracy and whatnot, and there's a little bit of humor only with when they contact the president's people and stuff like that, but it's actually terrifying in a lot of ways too. And it's just such a strange, like, you know, scenario, but it feels all real. It's told in a matter-of-fact kind of way, like a documentary style. It's like this tape is no longer deemed unclassified so people can watch it. That's how it opens, even though it's just obviously just a film. But that's a little ahead of its time as well, and it makes it a little bit scary. There's not really any... There's some pretty graphic stuff in the very beginning, especially I think this movie is PG. They show some of the dead bodies and everything like that, and that's why it kind of, you know, reminded me of The Stand. with the whole plague and outbreak. And then we go into there's a couple survivors, and they got to figure out why these people survived. And the more I say about it, the more I'll spoil it. But the whole setup is really intriguing. The way it plays out. And at the end of this movie, literally, I was on the edge of my seat like this, like oh, it comes down to a countdown, and they set it up and everything, and you're just like and it just feels real, even if it gets really scientific. And the science doesn't seem like complete bullcrap, because it's just told in maybe it's the actors and the dialogue that passes it along that way. But I just thought it was really, really well made. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was a great little sci-fi thriller that kind of scared the shit out of me for a couple seconds in the movie. And now it is very talkative, and that might not be everybody's jam, but you do kind of have to pay attention. It's not the one to get up and get a drink or walk away from the screen, because a lot of it, is constantly them figuring out what this damn thing is. There's a bunch of features on here. Kim Newman's involved in the special features. It looks pretty good. It sounds good. I just thought it was a damn entertaining and scary movie all at the same time. Those kind of stories never cease to kind of entertain me. The end of the world, or possible biological outbreak, or invading thing from space that can cause complete end of the world scenario. And it does kind of remind me slightly of Night of the Living Dead, which came a couple years before with the satellite. That's all I'll say, but that is Andromeda Strand. Pretty damn good movie, and very interesting stuff. And I think that, some movies owe some things to this one for sure.
Any messages for me from the White House?
Not a thing, Dr. Stone. Well, you have it.
The set you've just seen is the nerve center of a secret 5-story underground laboratory, which is the star of the Andromeda Strain, my new film for Universal, which is based on last year's best-selling novel. It's the story of the world's first space-age crisis.
We see bodies, lots of them.
Stay to stations. Hit that security button.
We need a flyby over Piedmont, New Mexico. Infrared, a FLIR scan, all sectors, film to come direct to scoop.
Too bad he can't tell us what happened.
Maybe he can, if he lives.
I recommend calling a wildfire alert.
Yes?
I just wanted to inform you that all members of your team have been cleared and are now being crawled in.
No other way to halt the infection spread.
Are you sure the old man and the baby are still alive?
What the hell are you doing?
Turn off the oxygen. Put him on room air.
No, the air is thick with Andromeda. Experiment with your own life, damn it.
Andromeda will spread everywhere. They'll never be rid of it.
There are now 5 minutes to self-destruct.
The cores equipped for safeguard. What would my chances be in there?
Well, they don't exist for anyone anywhere if you stay here.
Hey, Doc! She ain't leaving us here, are you?
Okay, the next one we have here is from Full Moon Entertainment. This is 1994. This is The Lurking Fear, or should I say H.P. Lovecraft's The Lurking Fear. Remember that? Like, there's so many H.P. Lovecraft movies, of course. Of course, Full Moon released this one. And this is a movie that I couldn't remember if I seen when I started it, and I know I hadn't at the end. But the original story, Lurking Fear, I do remember reading. It definitely has all the H.P. Lovecraft kind of little like things that we get used to, like the family lineage, disgusting evolutionary monstrosities, things like that. And it's just unspeakable terrors. But I'm going to say this about this. The Lurking Fear, the feature length from 94, yeah, obviously, they filmed this in Romania. It's Charles Band produced, and it just feels like it, and you can tell, like, oh, that actor's Romanian, or, and it's shot really well because they can get all those, like, guys that worked in Romania and Italy dirt cheap there. But this movie really feels like an elongated Tales from the Crypt episode, and I don't mean that as an insult because I grew up loving and watching Tales from the Crypt, and I endear that show. I love that show to death. So it feels like one of those, and a decent episode at that. We have a setup here where there's these creatures that are living under the town, the cemetery, the cathedral, and they're eating people. And then we also have a recently released Khan who is told that there are some riches buried in a body that his father left, and there's some other criminals after that money as well because the father ripped off a casino. So we got a bunch of baddies coming into the situation right in the middle of the townsfolk deciding to do something about the creatures exploding it, and all these people are mixed up in this cathedral trapped, and they kind of have to survive from the Lurking Fear, which are these, like I said, evolutionary monstrosities that have these bulging white eyes and are very creepy. Of course, they plant hints that somebody in the film possibly, is lineage of these creatures. That's very Lovecraftian. Think of the weird story with the monkey creature and whatnot. But it's like I said, it's not particularly like the story. The story is, is a very good one. It's actually one of his best ones, and there's a great scare in the book. That's not in here. But what we do get is a very nice cast, some familiar faces. The lead in this is in Head of the Family. I recognized him when I saw him. I was like, man, that guy's such a generic, like, 90s hunk guy, like, and like it would be in Tales from the Crypt or something like that. Like, yeah, guys, I was shooting a bunch of Chevrolet commercials. I thought he'd come be in your movie, but not an insult to the guy because he's fine in it. And he's actually a real likable lead. I enjoyed him in this, surprisingly, because a lot of those characters that are casted just for, like, if they're good looking, they can't act. This guy seems to be pretty decent actor, on top of obviously hired, not just hired for his looks, but his looks, they hire him because he's in good shape and everything like that. And he actually can act, which is surprising. So then we also have Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser, and she looks really good in this movie. It took me a second to recognize her, and she's kind of like an action commando type. Like seeing that. And we have, who else is in there? Vincent Schiavelli pops up, and of course, Jeffrey Combs. What's a Lovecraft adaptation without Jeffrey Combs? Jeffrey Combs is really solid in this movie. He doesn't play completely crazy, but he plays a fun drunk. The cast is decent, the acting's decent, the special effects are really cool. The monsters are the highlight of the movie. They look really awesome, and there's a great scare involving a priest that really kind of freaked me out, and I was like, whoa, because I actually looked away from the screen just for a second and looked up, and I was like, whoa, because it was just like a split second look away, and I was like, that was a great scare. And it would have worked regardless because I had to rewind it. I was like, oh, wow, that was a really good, well set up scare. But there's this strange thing with the priest communicating with the monsters that starts happening at the end. And I was like, okay, that's just too much. Like, he already did the thing with the too much. But, of course, it's subterranean horror, which last week we had Trapped Alive. Now we have The Lurking Fear. And that's the thing I've always enjoyed, the kind of the ground monsters and stuff, terrifying stuff. But this one's fairly enjoyable. There's some explosions, there's special effects. It's only an hour and 17 minutes, but it does feel a little bit longer. I would recommend checking it out. It's not a perfect movie. It looks pretty good. Sounds good. There are no subtitles. The video zone is included, which is great because you get interviews with Combs on set and Michael Todd, which surprised me that Michael Todd played the creature because Michael Todd I know from The Dead Next Door. He plays Jason, the zombie son of the Reverend. So that was Reverend Jones, I think. Oh, Jones. Yeah, but you guys know that. But that was pretty cool to see him pop up in this. And, there's interviews with them and the director. There's also a commentary, and then there's some deleted scenes without sound. I think this movie is worth watching for sure, especially if you like the 90s Lovecraft adaptations. It's not Reanimator, it's not From Beyond, but it's pretty fun, and, it's not a piece of junk. It's a very fun, entertaining movie, right in the middle, a little above average, so I enjoyed it, so check it out.
What you really are, inside, a killer.
That's part of it.
Lefferts Corners.
Yeah, it's a Nuttin, about 200 miles south.
I'm just here for the money. One of you dies every 10 minutes till I get it.
We had a deal.
The storm's coming in.
Come on, Father. These damn things have been living under our feet and tearing us apart for 20 years.
I know that better than you.
Okay, what we have here is one from Mill Creek, and this is a Van Damme movie. You know, I figured up, why not follow up last week's Double Impact with this week's Double Team? Yeah, this has, I remember when this came out. This is, they got the 90s little collection on there. This has Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dennis Rodman, but as the bad guy, Mickey Rourke, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. This is directed by, how do you say his name? First name, Tissot Hark. He did a bunch of Chinese movies. You know, he's a big producer, big director in China. So it's kind of surprising, to be honest. I put this in, and Jean-Claude Van Damme is a retired kind of like special operations guy. I don't know what he's for, the CIA, some secret organization you're not supposed to know about. And he has a vendetta against Mickey Rourke. His girlfriend is pregnant. He decides to take one last mission to stop Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke loses his child in the process, and Jean-Claude Van Damme is hurt, and he's put in this special thing called the colony, where he has to be isolated for the rest of his life because he is, I think, quote, too valuable to kill, but too dangerous to let go. So he's in the colony and does some anti-terrorism things, realizes that Mickey Rourke's guy's still out there, and he's after his wife and unborn child. So Jean-Claude Van Damme breaks out and goes after Mickey Rourke with the help of his gun specialist kind of friend, Dennis Rodman. That's the plot of this movie. The action's solid and fun at points. Some of it doesn't make sense. When I was like, how'd that happen? How'd that happen? There's some CGI used at the end that's pretty bad and dated. You know, it's the late 90s. It's weird that Jean-Claude Van Damme seemed to become a worse actor in this one. I was like watching, rewatching some of his stuff. I'm like, okay, Black Eagle, Lionheart, Double Impact. I was like, he's getting better. And then Double Team, I'm like, he's getting worse. Dennis Rodman is not good in this. He's not horrible, I guess, but he's pretty bad. Oh, he's pretty bad. And the basketball puns, not funny, not clever. They're horrible. Basketball puns galore. Everybody has these silly basketball puns they won't stop doing in the movie. And Dennis Rodman is pretty much the main criminal at it. Not criminal, but main suspect in doing them. Of course, they have a homemade parachute, but it's not a parachute. It's something he designed. It turns into a basketball and hits the ground. Yeah. 1990s, baby. That's the line of this. I love the 90s. It's very 90s. Like I said, the action is the highlight. Mickey Rourke's decent in it. The last standoff is pretty cool. It involves a tiger and some landmines. Even though I don't understand Mickey Rourke's whole idea of doing it, because the landmines are so powerful they blow up everything. So if somebody steps it on, you're not going to get out in time. Okay, whatever. Like I said, it does have subtitles. This one does have subtitles, unlike Lurking Fear. There's no special features to speak of. It's not a great movie or anything like that, but there's squibs, there's lots of shooting. I just wish they developed some of the side characters a little better, because there's so many people getting shot, or maybe a couple of the goons a little better, because they don't really have any characters except the main bad guy. I don't know. It's not particularly great, but it's worth maybe one watch. If you're a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, you could do a lot worse than this, but you could do way better as well. It's Double Team. It looks and sounds decent, but it's not a particularly a winner or anything like that.
Let him in, Bravo.
He's the nation's top counter-terrorist.
Delta 1, you're good to go.
But on his final mission...
Negative. It's not him.
He missed the target. Now, there's only one man who can put him back in the game.
Whoa, I bet that hurt.
That hurt.
I need merchandise. The best.
Sorry, I'm closed tonight.
You're open now.
A world-class arms dealer
Did you open that?
Yeah.
with a flair for destruction.
I don't know, man. I look at you, I see nothing but trouble. What the hell? I kind of like trouble.
Their styles are different, very different.
Offense gets the glory.
But defense wins the game.
But against an international conspiracy,
I need a partner.
I'm the man, baby.
they'll be at each other's side
Yes! Behind you! Oh!
and in each other's face.
It's me.
Jack's coming. Take care of business. They have no idea what they're up against. Now that makes it personal, mister.
Can you fly a plane?
Like a bird.
Does your hair change color when you sweat?
Bruce, airball. You need practice, man. I'll never miss twice, brother.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dennis Rodman. They don't play by the rules.
Sorry.
Double team.
Who does your hair? Siegfried or Roy?
No hurt jokes today, okay?
Okay, guys, the next one is a Patreon pick from Dustin Mills, and this is Attack on Titan Part 2, End of the World. This is the live-action version, of course, the sequel to the first one. Picks up right where the first one left off. I think these were shot back-to-back, and I was like, oh, yes, I definitely want to see the second one. So I started watching this, and they had a recap in the beginning. I was like, thank you, because it's been like a month since I watched the first one. And the recap kind of brought everything down to the level, what happened. If you guys aren't familiar with Attack on Titan, movie, series, anime, or whatever it is, whatever you have seen by it, it's a bunch of giant monsters come through and destroy this walled-in city that is the last remaining, like, humanity. These giant titans eat everything and destroy everything, and they can't really be killed. You don't know where they came from, and at the end of the first one, spoilers for the first one, our lead character turns into a giant titan himself, but he's different, and he's scary, and he's weird, and he looks like the first one that destroyed the walls that brought in the other titans. So it's kind of like, okay. So we have a lot of questions in this one, and we've, formed some bonds with some other characters. The questions are answered, and they're satisfying. I don't think it's quite as good as the first one, but because that mystery of what they are in the opening attack in Attack on Titan was one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. This one does not have that horrifying kind of scary feel, but it also confuses me at the same time because we see how the Titans are created, but then we see the children of the Titans in the first one, and it's like, I don't understand how they can have children, or maybe that baby was turned. That just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not necessarily sure where they were going with that. But the fight scenes are cool. We learn more about, the character and who they are. And it's very, very comic book anime stuff. I did kind of enjoy, the characters that you developed, like feelings for, some of them get picked off, and that's interesting as well. I don't have very much to say about this one because, like I said, it's a direct continuation of it, and it just kind of wraps everything up in a decent way. The fight at the end is cool, but there's lots of stuff that, is happening, but it doesn't really stand out. There's some, double crossing. You learn some people who aren't who they are. I like the actors in this movie, the leads. Like I said, I don't have much to say about it. I would recommend checking it out. Not as strong as the first, but almost as strong. The action's good. It's gory. It has good bits. Not as gory as the first again either, but like I said, the first one just kind of blew my mind. This one does have a couple moments where I was like, yes, but not as much as the first one. I know it's a quick review, but I don't want to say too much and spoil too much either. Okay, the next one is a Patreon pick from Jeremy from the 22 Shots, and he picked First Reform. This is a new film directed by Paul Schrader. It's on Netflix. It's actually it's on Amazon Prime, to be honest. It stars Ethan Hawke. I'm going to be honest. Ethan Hawke is an actor. I've seen it a bunch of stuff. He never really caught my attention. I didn't hate him. I was just like, he's there. Paul Schrader wrote Taxi Driver. He directed Hardcore. He's done a bunch of stuff, and he has kind of a long, I would say, prolific career, and he has definitely a style. Now, I have to say this off the bat. From my understanding about Paul Schrader, I learned this, I think, probably listening to the podcast and reading about them a little bit. Or I don't know if I actually read this about him a little bit, but I've heard this about a couple directors, him and Wes Craven. They grew up in, I think Elric Kane talked about it on Shockwaves or Pure Cinema Podcast. They grew up in a very religious family where they couldn't watch films for years. So when they eventually got, like 18, 19, college level, they actually started seeing their films for the first part. So that's probably why Wes Craven's horror movies have no, like, fun in the beginning. They're just horror. What's the scariest thing I can think of? Boom. My family's raped and killed or attacked by weird people in the mountains, So his movies were so horrific originally. And Paul Schrader, you can see like these elements of his religious background in his movies, especially Hardcore. And this one shares similarities to Hardcore and Taxi Driver because the character in this movie feels kind of like Travis from Taxi Driver in a weird way. We follow Ethan Hawke, who is this priest who obviously is a lot of problems going on, physical, mental, emotional, everything, spiritual. He works in this small little tiny church. I think it's First Reformed, and it's coming across its 250th anniversary. Obviously, the church is struggling. He is struggling as well. It's like there's a pattern between both of them. The church is kind of old and struggling to survive, and he's struggling to survive. But there's this local kind of businessman that puts a lot of money towards it, and he is part of a larger kind of I guess you'd say like Cedar Creek style church where Cedric the Entertainer is like the main priest, and he's on television. He's very popular. Cedric the Entertainer in this movie is excellent, actually, and Ethan Hawke is excellent as well. The acting's fairly well done. I think all the acting's really good. It's well shot. It looks crisp, and it's shot in full screen, which kind of blew my mind. I was like, wonder why he did that. There's definitely a reason why Paul Schrader would do that. So this movie, like I said, it's definitely a character study, and you're just waiting. And you learn more about Ethan Hawke and all the problems he has. He is obviously sick, and he starts to kind of counsel this young man who's obsessed with the environment, and he's almost like an environmental terrorist, where the fact that not destroying the environment, but attacking people who would be enemies, that he sees enemies to the environment. So that includes the guy who's providing money for his church, also includes all sorts of other people. So some kind of tragedy happens, and Ethan Hawke, it's funny because there's so many people that get radicalized in this movie, or the term nowadays, I would say, get radicalized in real life. And people always, point like to the major groups, but it's always like the people on the outskirts of the groups that end up doing the most damaging things. And that's what Ethan Hawke kind of is. He's intrigued by this, saving the environment. And this movie's very heavy-handed in a lot of ways. Like they'll talk about, global warming, and then they'll talk about kids being brainwashed on the internet and all sorts of things like that. And a lot of the interactions between Ethan Hawke and Cedric the Entertainer are really, kind of poignant at certain extents. There was a point in this movie where I said when it got really heavy-handed within talking about the Iraq war to global warming to the internet, and within like 10 minutes or something around there, and I was like, oh my god, man, who directed this? Oliver Stone? And I was just making a joke, but it just very, very heavy-handed in the fact that it was pushing its social messages and its whole intent right down your throat. And maybe that's a statement on what, how it is nowadays. People just do it. But regardless, it was very, very, like forced. But I guess that's, what the movie's kind of going for. The character, the priest, Ethan Hawke, kind of starts a relationship with the wife of the person he was counseling. Without spoiling too much, like I said, I don't want to get into this, but there's some really tense moments where, you side with Ethan Hawke, and then you're also like repulsed by what Ethan Hawke does. And like he gets some moments to really show do his acting chops, from depressed and angry and losing his mind and just completely lost. I would recommend checking this out at the very least to see kind of it's a really good movie, to be honest. It's well made, it's well directed, it looks crisp, everything. It's just a very interesting story, and it ends in a way that I think, some people will be like, I don't like that how it ended, or it should have done this, but it's just, no, it doesn't matter how it ends. It does. It does. It matters to an extent that you just need to know that this person could be like this, and anybody can be like on that edge, or people just push to this kind of this way. But I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I love the conversation he had with the businessman and what the businessman says to him, and how like how coarse he is and stuff like that, and he's such a dick. But I would check this one out for sure. It's on Amazon Prime, streaming in 4K. So yeah, good stuff.
I've decided to keep a journal to set down all my thoughts and the simple events of my day. I will keep this diary for 1 year, and at the end of that time, it will be destroyed.
I encouraged my son to enlist. It was a family tradition. 6 months later, he was dead in Iraq. I was lost. My son's the reading of the Lord. Praise be God.
So how are you?
Oh, I'm fine.
No, really. It's been a while since we've talked. Even a pastor needs a pastor.
Did you see the doctor? You need someone to take care of you. I want you to be happy.
I know that nothing can change, and I know there is no hope.
Reverend Toller,
Yes, Mary.
you must come over. You must come over now.
Explosives.
She was becoming someone I didn't know.
Opportunistic diseases, anarchy, martial law. You will live to see this.
You had no idea that he was thinking of...
No, I'm so frightened.
These kids, they want certainty. Don't think, follow. They fall prey to extremism. It's a world without hope.
No, I have not lost my faith.
You think that what we did together was a sin?
I've seen enough real sin to know the difference.
You didn't tell the police, right?
Take a look at your own life before you criticize others.
These are frightening times. We have to be patient.
Well, somebody has to do something.
Are you washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow?
My hands shake as I write these lines.
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Can God forgive us for what we've done to this world?
Who can know the mind of God?
Okay, the next one is a Patreon pick from Jonathan Wilhelm. I watched this on Amazon Prime as well. Amazon Prime, man, it's a haven for all sorts of different movies. You could watch First Reformed, or you could watch something that I did, afterwards, like Swamp Ape. Yeah, Jonathan Wilhelm. Thank you. Swamp Ape. Okay, here we go. It's 58 minutes. I was like, yes, 58 minutes. It's super low budget. It's, I can't remember the director's name, but he actually stars in it too. Oh, this is a silly one. A swamp ape. Okay, it's, some sort of Sasquatch that lives in a swamp. That's pretty much it. We have these kind of college flunkies that are not particularly good. They're going to fail unless they go on this extracurricular activity that this teacher wants them to go on an island in a swamp and study, I guess take samples and study them. That's the basis of the movie. Of course, there's a swamp ape out there, and they even are warned by the Native American stereotype that we all love in movies that says, now it's not a good time to go out there. It's very dangerous. He even talks like that. It's like, guys, are we still doing this? Obviously making a joke on it in the first place. This movie is not serious. This movie is silly. Okay, so the people are out there, and of course, skunk ape attacks, or swamp ape. The movie has sound problems. You hear a lot, which a first movie, I can see that. I'm just surprised it's on Amazon Prime. But, Slimy Little Bastards, there were sound issues, so I can understand that. I'm not going to fault the movie's dirt cheap, you can tell. And they incorporated boats and on the water and in nature, so it's like this stuff is not particularly easy. There's some horrible CGI, though. That is pretty much unforgivable. I don't know why they even bothered doing that. There's no nudity. And there's attempts at almost showing nudity, and this movie could have used some nudity, not to be a dick. But the swamp ape suit, it's just a cheesy suit, so you expect it. The gore is essentially just guts and blood here and there. Not anything to go nuts about. There's some really silly characters in here. There's this fat girl who constantly has a bunch of food on her, and her demise is because she goes back for food. It's that kind of deal. There's the director of the movie is actually in it. He's like this big muscular guy. So he plays like a broha. He's a dick. He's a douche. But he tries his best and he kind of redeems himself throughout the movie. He definitely gave himself the best character. Or maybe he made that character on the spot. Like I said, it doesn't seem like it's particularly like the most in-depth written movie. A lot of it probably is improv. It is kind of fun. There's a couple moments when I laughed. But most of the time you just kind of do this. Yep. It's no Redneck Zombies. So when I want to watch something like this, I would put in Redneck Zombies myself. Swamp Ape. It's on Amazon Prime. It's 58 minutes. Put it on if you want a couple laughs, but it's not a great movie. Obviously, they know what they're making. And, give them props for making a movie for sure. It is low budget. No budget. I would say this is no budget. And that's just a funny thing about budgets. It's like, this is low budget. This is no budget. This is do it yourself. It's like when you hear like movies like that are medium budget, like Starry Eyes, like, this is no budget. We had no money. It's like, no, Swamp Ape. I love Starry Eyes, but Swamp Ape, that had no money. No money. But, yeah, if this sounds like it's something up your alley, check it out.
In the Florida Everglades.
All right, we're here. Everyone out. Get everything you need. It's wilderness from here on out.
A group of college students took a little field trip.
I hope you don't plan on camping around here this weekend.
Yes, we're here for the pollution study. Oh, hell yeah, I'm jumping in. How about you ladies?
Guess we could get in sand, right?
I could do that.
But they'd soon find out they're not alone.
I guess you guys found out about my research study.
We're getting off this island now!
Swamp Ape.
Hammer time!
For all who are willing to pay the price, we invite you to go through the mirror of life!
Hey guys, what's up? We're in for another week of Hammer Horror. This is week 4, and we got another double feature to review for you. We got Revenge of Frankenstein, which is the sequel to the original Curse of Frankenstein. I believe this is a 58 one or 59, and then we got the Hound of Baskervilles. So let's start with The Revenge of Frankenstein. This is a direct sequel. It picks up right where the first one left off, with Dr. Frankenstein going to the guillotine, which is a great ending on the original. But then we kind of, obviously, he's got to get out of here. I knew he was going to escape because there's a bunch of sequels and Cushings and a bunch of them. So the opening of this, I'd say the first act is actually the better act in this whole movie.
Yeah, I'd say I like the opening and the ending.
Yeah.
In the middle, what it deals with, like what we call him, the second Frankenstein monster?
Okay, the plot of this is Dr. Frankenstein escapes with some sort of deformed man. Think, like an Igor type or a hunchback type. I don't want to say Igor is a hunchback, but that's what it kind of became over time. Everybody says that it's Igor is the hunchback guy, but, in like, what is it, Frankenstein's Ghost or Ghost of Frankenstein. I can't remember Igor's in it. Bela Lugosi, and he has the hunchback. But regardless, we have this kind of disfigured person who helps Dr. Frankenstein escape from the gallows. They put the priest body in there instead in the coffin. He escapes to a small town, changes his name to what? It was something really stupid. Steen. Dr. Steen. And he starts to practice there, and pretty soon somebody recognizes him, and they want to be his kind of protege and learn from him because Dr. Frankenstein, Baron Frankenstein, was really ahead of his time, but everybody knows now that he's a monster, a butcher.
Right.
Created a monster that caused a bunch of trouble, so,
I think in the town there's like the medical society, yes. And they asked him to join and he refused to join, and we're like, well, now he's taking all of our patients, and why won't he join us? He's too good for us, and so we want to dig up some dirt on him, and They kind of failed to do so for a while.
Yes, but what happens is he starts to... The guy who's disfigured, he promised him a new body. So it's no longer good enough for Baron Frankenstein to create life. He wants to create a body, but then transfer already human mind in there because he's realized that you cannot really bring back the mind. The mind has to have been living in the first place. So he's not really creating anything. He's just doing a brain transplant at this point. But it's kind of like, you know what I mean?
It's like an inverted brain transplant.
So, but he's creating bodies to look just like the person. Like, he creates a body of the guy who's deformed that looks just like him, but perfect with scars. Mm-hmm. So this guy, he seems like a good-natured kind of guy. And he does the transplant, but something goes wrong, of course. And you learn halfway through the movie that the transplant, he did it on a monkey. He put an orangutan's brain in a chimpanzee. And you're like, what is up with this chimpanzee? Why is he in the background rattling cages? And then, like, I guess they were feeding it meat. And you realize, oh, afterwards, he was a cannibal. And you're like, oh, I guess you should have said that in the beginning because that comes out of left field. So you know immediately something's going to go wrong with this, surgery and experiment. That's basically the setup.
Which I do find it interesting that, like, in the time that this movie was made, they thought that chimpanzees were vegetarians, but I think it's like the late 80s, early 90s. They're like, oh no, they actually do eat meat.
Chimpanzees are terrifying animals.
Yeah, don't ever get a chimpanzee, guys.
If you ever have a chimpanzee as a pet and you want me to come over to your house, I will no longer be your friend until that chimpanzee is dead.
Right.
They terrify me. And I don't know, complete rant about chimpanzees. They shouldn't be pets. They're not pets. They don't belong as a pet.
No.
Okay. Next subject.
So anyway, so yeah, the guy, I can't think of the character's name in it.
The guy who's protege, he's an interesting character, and I actually like him.
No, not the protege. The new monster.
I just want to call him Hugo for some reason. I don't think that's his name.
Yeah, well,
I can't think of his name. But he's the only real sympathetic character in the movie.
Yeah. So he they do a transplant. Everything's going good, and the protege says, the new Frankenstein.
Yeah.
We're going to call him Hugo. His name's not Hugo, but we're just going to call him Hugo. That. So the protege is like, or Hugo asks for protege. It's like, so what are you guys going to do? When can I leave and go do the things?
Live my regular life.
And it's like, oh no, and the protege is like, well, we got to show you off to science, to the medical society, and he's like, well, people have been looking at me all my life. I don't want people looking at me anymore.
And he loses his mind.
And he loses his mind. He escapes. But he falls in love with...
I can't remember who he falls in love with, but there's a woman who helps him that works there.
Yeah, it's Dr. Stein's nurse, kind of secretary aide.
So there's that love interest there. But of course, it becomes pretty typical in a Universal or Hammer movie where he's out and about the kind of smoggy streets of the city and he starts to lose his mind and kill some people.
Right, so it's getting that bloodlust.
What's really funny is Dr. Frankenstein, or Dr. Stein here, he performs surgeries and heals people for free, the poor people, but he keeps them all in this weird ward that's really dirty, and he takes limbs from them what he wants and everything like that. And that's a really kind of a disturbing nice little side note in the movie. There's a middle act in here. It's completely uneventful. It takes way too long to get started in this one, to be honest. The score, I think, is by James Bernard, the same guy who did Horror of Dracula. It's directed by Terrence Fisher again, and I believe Jimmy Sangster wrote it. It stars Peter Cushing, so it's got a lot of the same elements of the other one. It's not really a Frankenstein monster, like in your typical fashion, but it's kind of nice to see Dr. Frankenstein go about and do all sorts of different experiments. But and I was wondering how they're going to carry this 6-film series, him just doing a bunch of Frankenstein's monsters. I was like, okay, we're going to see the bride eventually and stuff like that. But this, I was like, where's this going to go? This really seems like it should be a 15-minute excerpt that's turned into a feature-length movie.
Well, I think I like how it ends. Can we talk about the ending?
Spoiler alert here.
Okay.
The ending is kind of strange because they show you that Dr. Stein can create bodies that look like anybody. So of course he creates one that looks like himself because he's not going to be around forever.
Right, and then once the word gets out that Dr. Stein is the Baron Frankenstein, he goes back to his poor hospital, and they're like, he's a butcher. He's been taking our limbs.
Don't spoil everything.
Okay.
Let's get him, fellas. And essentially, you know where it's going to go for there. But
Yeah.
I did like that he had a protege, unlike Paul from the first movie, that actually was gung-ho about it.
Right.
Again, it's enjoyable, but it's just much weaker than the first film. Not much weaker. It is weaker. And it's one of the weaker ones we've seen so far, I think.
I think it is. I think if they cut out... This sounds stupid because I think it's maybe the whole movie. If they cut out the whole original transplant procedure, like where he leaves and the Frankenstein monster, he's leaving and he's like after the girl that he loves, and I don't know, it just kind of...
It gets very uneventful.
Yeah, it's a bit too long. I mean, I think Cushing does an amazing job.
He's great in it.
The people on the medical society are all really fun and really good.
And I want to mention something before I forget about these old Hammer movies and old movies in general, especially British films. There'll be a serious, decent, fun movie, and then all of a sudden there'll be almost a jokey character, and they do it in all the movies. They even kind of do that in American Werewolf in London, but that's more comedy. But they're obviously playing on the fact that all those old characters. Mm-hmm. Well, there'll be a guy who's like, "Oh, don't mind if I help myself to some brandy," and his wife's like, "We gotta go," and he's just getting drunk and whatnot. They're just in all these movies. There's always a weird kind of silly character.
Was it Catermass or was it?
It was Hounds of Baskervilles, which is coming up with the drunk.
No, the one we watched prior with the old lady. I can't remember if it was Catermass or X the Unknown. Then she was in the police station, she saw something, and she was like, "Oh, you mean it wasn't a gin goblin?" or whatever she said.
Yes, there's that too. There's always these characters like that, and they would actually do it in almost all Euro horror. I think almost from the time frame, a lot of Dario Argento, even to the day, the movies he makes always have that character, whether it's just an eccentric gay character or just a strange, weird, traveling drifter. There's just these weird characters. And I think these, I know it probably goes all the way back to, the beginning of film, but I just always think of British, movies when those characters come in. But if I had to rate this, I'm not sure exactly where I'd put it. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10.
If we're doing it out of 5... it's
I do
not
it out of 10.
You do it out of 10?
Yeah.
I mean, I might do a 5 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, I really liked parts of it, but it failed to keep my interest for a good portion. It picked back up in the ending, but there was a good chunk where I'm just because a lot of it is just people laying down in bed, let's be honest. Most of this movie is people sleeping in bed. Well, just one guy in particular lamenting himself.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, the Terror on Tape book does not have Revenge of the Frankenstein in it. Maybe it was never released on tape anywhere, but I know that we can't use that. But John Stanley's Creature Features does have a review, so let's see it.
So
do the rating first. Always do the rating first.
Always
5
do
stars.
the rating.
Yep.
Okay. Revenge of the Frankenstein, 1958. That's 4.5 out of 5.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you ready?
Okay.
Sequel to The Curse of Frankenstein, and one of the best in Hammer's Frankenstein series, premiered with a satanical sense of humor. Thanks to the script of Jimmy Sangster that does not distract from horrific elements. Peter Cushing returns as the Baron, working in a hospital in Carlsbrook for access to organs and limbs, so he might give his hunchback assistant a new body. It's warped, the story, not the body, but that's what makes these British fright flicks so bloody good, old man. Why does he write like this? Directed by Terence Fisher with a lust for macabre humor, Michael Gwynn replaces Christopher Lee as the monster with Lionel Jeffries as a body snatcher.
But is it with new makeup?
Wait, what?
Remember the last review of Curse of Frankenstein? It's Christopher Lee as Frankenstein's monster with new makeup.
Oh, yes.
And I think it's satirical, is it?
This?
Yeah, no, you said satirical in the review, but I think you said satanical? Or is it actually satanical?
No, it says satanical, unless that's a typo.
It literally says satanical. Satanical sense of humor?
I don't think that anything was satanic in this movie.
Maybe they mean mean-spirited sense of humor.
I don't even think it was that mean-spirited.
I don't know. The guy body, basically, after all that surgery, just doesn't work because his brain overcomes the body.
Hey, the ends justify the means. All right.
Okay. Well, I don't have a review for you. I would definitely, it's not, you could do much worse. I don't hate it. I wouldn't mind watching it again. It's just not on the top of the heap yet. It's probably towards the bottom.
Well, I mean, this is going to say it's the best. I don't know if I want to watch it.
That's what I was thinking too, but I guarantee I'm looking forward to Frankenstein Created Woman, Frankenstein the Monster from Hell. There's a bunch of them, so we'll get to them. I'm sure they'll be good.
Frankenstein Takes New York?
Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. Frankenstein Takes New York. I wish Frankenstein went to New York.
Frankenstein in Space.
Frankenstein in Space. All right, we're good.
All right.
In the year 1860, I, Baron Frankenstein, was sentenced to death on the guillotine. Why had the world condemned me? Because I was the first man to create another living being. The first unnatural man, but because his brain was affected, because he could not control his animal instincts, he was hunted down and brutally murdered. But I have escaped the guillotine, and I shall avenge the death of my creation. Nobody. He isn't born yet.
You will witness scenes never before seen on a motion picture screen. You will see Frankenstein take the eyes of one man, the brain of another. You will see lifeless hands begin to move. You will see a man turn into the world's most terrifying monster.
Anesthetic! Switch off!
Okay, guys, the next one is The Hound of Baskervilles, and this is based on a Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, Sherlock Holmes story. This is a Sherlock Holmes story. There's a bunch of renditions of the story. This is the only one I ever saw. This is, again, directed by Terence Fisher, who's directed a bunch of these movies. It stars Peter Cushing, who's in a bunch of these movies, almost all of them, but like 3 out of the 8 we've done, and Christopher Lee, who's in a bunch of them as well. Yeah, this is a strange one. This is a little bit more supernatural, a little bit more horror-oriented for a Sherlock Holmes story.
Yeah, where do we start with this one?
The plot is basically there's a curse on this family called the Baskervilles. They did something horrible to, I guess, a servant girl years past and her father. So there's a curse put upon their family, and a bunch of them are murdered, and it goes through the years and years, and Christopher Lee is the last in the lineage of the family, and a family friend hires Peter Cushing, who's Sherlock Holmes, and Watson, to protect him and figure out if there actually is a curse on the Baskervilles or if there's somebody out to get them.
Right.
And I mean, it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo setup.
It very is much a Scooby-Doo setup. But then so is Sherlock, I think. From what I've read, I haven't read it.
I would say that Scooby-Doo stole from Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
I'm sure everybody stole from Sherlock Holmes, let's be honest.
There's even a mask in this movie.
Yes. But it's not going on somebody that you would expect. No spoilers yet.
No spoilers.
Okay. So,
yeah.
What I really liked about this movie was Christopher Lee is goddamn charming as hell in it. Love Christopher Lee in it. I think it's one of his best performances. He's actually like handsome and dashing and just like all around a gentleman and really likable, even for a rich guy.
You know, I've noticed like Peter Cushing always plays an asshole.
Not always.
Not always.
I want you to watch Tales from the Crypt, the old anthology from 1972, the Amicus one, because Peter Cushing plays one of the sweetest old men ever, and that movie is just wonderful. I love it.
I'd say 75% of the movies we've seen of Peter Cushing in these so far, he's been kind of a prick. Aside from The Abominable Snowman, Christopher Lee, when he's like a gentleman, is really captivating. He's got charisma.
Cushing was fine in Dracula. But he was a little bit brazen.
Yeah. Even then,
or standoffish.
Like, okay, I'll go with you, Dracula. Let's go do this.
You mean Van Helsing?
Yeah, Van Helsing was a prick in that movie.
Yeah, no. Oh, you were saying your side with Dracula over Van Helsing?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you looking at me?
Oh, I'm looking at you.
Yes.
So, yeah, I liked Peter Cushing as Sherlock.
He was witty and funny.
And
clever.
Kind of a prick. I love Dr. Watson. And I think this movie focuses more on Dr. Watson
And the books, a lot of them are originally told in Watson's perspective, right?
I believe so.
So Watson's kind of the main character a lot of times. He's more approachable, and Holmes is kind of mysterious. And it does actually open with Watson going with to protect the Baskerville Henry originally. So that's kind of the opening. But the atmosphere's great in this movie. The opening's really intense and kind of the darkest part of the whole movie.
Right. I remember when we were watching, I was like, just like burning people alive.
Yes, it was kind of shocking. But then, what time place would you say that the opening takes place in?
I thought it was like late 17, early 18.
And then the majority of the movie takes place in what?
Whatever Sherlock Holmes times. And I feel like that's like 1890 to like 1910.
H.H. Holmes times and stuff like that. The great, I can't think of those things. But this movie's very gothic. It has that very gothic feel to it. Like the paintings of the family on the walls. This is my uncle. This is my father. This is stuff like that. And the mystery is pretty decent. Except there is one part of the mystery that I did not grasp when they have like kind of the servants around that I said, is that a plot hole or did I miss one line of dialogue? Because one of the paintings is missing and that is kind of one of the pieces to the puzzle to solve.
I don't know if there's like a missing scene or something, but like or if we just missed something. But when Sherlock forms his whole, when he's solved it more or less, he introduces a piece. Like, you as the audience is aware that there is a missing painting on the staircase, but you never see that painting. And how did Sherlock see the painting to know what the painting had in it to solve the mystery?
They give you a lot of the pieces, but I'm not sure they give you all the pieces. Like, at one point I was like, oh, this has got to be this and this. And I put that together. I was like, it's the only reason. Because there's a lot of suspects, and they're all in this little small town, and they're very kind of bizarre. There's a character called Dr. Mortimer, which you expect right away, but he is not. He's just really butts heads with Henry and Dr. Sherlock Holmes. And I actually find him to be one of the more enjoyable characters. And his performance is really good as well. There's a strange love story with Henry going on with this kind of a Spanish girl, which is really weird.
Yeah, that was really weird. It kind of comes out of nowhere, but then it ties in together. I like the old bishop. The drunk bishop.
Oh yes, that's that character we were talking about earlier. The kind of comedic character that's like, your father, your uncle always had the best whatever whiskey, and he's like drinking a bunch of it, and he's obviously going over there to drink the whiskey, and it's pretty fun. I would say that this movie's really good at setting up most of the things besides the whole painting thing. I didn't think. I was kind of a little like, did I miss something for a second? But it sets up with the quicksand and everything, like don't go out at night, and it plays into the legend, but it's definitely like Scooby-Doo-ish because the bad guys are playing into the legend of how the Baskervilles are killed. Because after that whole thing happened, there was a strange legend of the Hound of Baskerville that would kill the person in the family line.
Right. Obviously the uncle that died is like very rich, and so they're thinking the whole time that it's a he gets like 10% the will he gets, so we're just going to do them in. There was another character in here that I was really fond of, and I can't think of who it was.
Well, the trapper and his daughter.
There's the trapper and his daughter,
Mortimer, Watson, Henry, and the butler and his wife. That's pretty much all the characters.
I guess that is it. Yeah, there's like an escaped crazy guy.
Which is also a huge red herring, but he plays directly into the plot. But it's kind of somewhat, yes.
I can't remember.
He's definitely like throws you curveballs to expect on that.
Yeah, he throws you a curveball. I know what I want to talk about. Christopher Lee and the Spider.
Oh, we actually watched some of the special features on here. I watched the Arrow release from the UK, and there was a bunch of great features on here. But I did watch what Christopher Lee talked about the movie, and he talked about Peter Cushing and how their friendship was and the last time he saw him. And that stuff would bring a tear to any person's eye.
Oh, I was like sobbing.
Especially fans of this kind of stuff. But there's like a great friendship between the two. Like they were very close in the way they interacted. It was just, it's a wonderful story. And he talks about being on set and the spider that was on his shoulder. And we were watching this, and I was like, I wonder, the close-ups, they don't show Lee in the spot with the spider, and you're like, oh, he's probably like, don't put that spider on me. I was like, I bet they just filmed those later. Like they got his close-ups, and then they filmed the close-ups of the shoulder later because they didn't want to deal with the animal at the time. But no, in actuality, because I was like, Lee ain't afraid of no spider. Lee was terrified of the spider. spider. He was terrified of the tarantula. But at the same time, he did put it on his shoulder. So they never had a medium shot of him with the spider on his things because there was probably a guy standing right behind him ready to grab him. So they had to do a close-up. So it was pointless to even put Lee in that position if you weren't going to show his face with the spider. Because when they do the medium, it's like obviously a fake spider on his shoulder. But it's funny that Lee, who's like the Air Force and went through all these things, and he's like this big presence, is scared of a tarantula. I know people are scared of them, but for the most part, I don't think people realize they aren't exactly harmless, but they're a lot more harmless than people expect, depending on the breed of tarantula.
Right. I mean, I'm always, while I'm afraid of them, I'm not afraid of them. I'm always afraid of them, like, of me hurting them.
Well, some of them you drop. They're so big that they could...
Yeah. You know. And I just don't like anything that, like, jumps suddenly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
But it was a pretty good story on there. There was a bunch of other features I didn't get a chance to watch either, involving interviews with people that have passed and everything.
Now, I think maybe we need to watch those ones. Only because I'm so confused about the whole painting scenario.
Well, it makes sense to a certain extent. The butler, I need to go back and listen to his exact words why the painting was missing.
Right.
But anyways, I really like the story. It's not like anything that's there's not like a high body count or anything, but it is one of the better ones, and the ending is kind of surprising. And I was like, what? And then I was like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But it's still it's one of those movies where like it better be supernatural, or it better not be supernatural, but I think it will please everybody.
I think so.
That's the way they play the line perfect, where it's like, it kind of is, it kind of isn't, or is it? It's not, but yeah, cool anyways. So I think they play that line really well, and I think that it will satisfy most fans. I would give this one probably an 8.
I'd give this one like a 4.5 out of 5. I really
I love this one. I would watch it again. Maybe the whole package, and also the Arrow release looks spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. It looked really good.
All right, you ready to read?
Okay.
Here we go. Hound of Baskervilles. Out of 4 stars, it received 3. A Good Hammer remake abandons much of the original's plot, but still managed to remain faithful to the Conan Doyle spirit, with Cushing and energetic Holmes and morale and intelligent, understated Watson. Beautifully photographed on gorgeous sets, Osley steals it in the opening flashback as the lustful Sir Hugo Baskerville.
Okay. There's 3 in mine, so I was reading the wrong one at first. Hound of Baskervilles, 1959, 3 stars. Hammer's version of the Conan Doyle classic stars Peter Cushing as the Baker Street sleuth, Sherlock Holmes, and Andre Morel as the winsome Watson. This is more effective in the Rathbone Bruce treatment and will grip your interest with its hellish hound, misbound swamps, and devious characters, even if the story about a family living under a dreaded curse is familiar. Directed by yada yada. Mm-hmm. Do you want to read all that?
No, we know who did it.
All right.
But I like this one quite a bit. Again, directed by Terrence Fisher, so he's done a bunch of these, starring Lee and Cushing. And Sangster didn't write this one, though. He did not. And it's the same producer as the last one as well. But I think we come along. We haven't had any real big stinkers yet out of all of them. I would recommend checking this one out. This has been my favorites. So far, I really like Quatermass 2, Quatermass Experiment, Curse of Frankenstein, and Hound of Baskervilles. I would say those are the best ones.
I'd say I liked the Frankensteins.
Both of them, or just the first one?
Well, more of the first one, but there are parts about the second one I really liked. Obviously, both Quatermasses.
You liked X the Unknown more than I
did like X the Unknown. The only one I was kind of iffy on was
the Snowman.
The Snowman and the Dracula.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of Dracula, so I have my own biases.
Okay, I'm good. You?
Bye.
Oh, somebody suggested that the last video that you should just carry actually a hammer. You didn't do it this time.
Oh yeah, we're on week 4.
Yeah.
Week 4, because we didn't say hammer time.
Hammer time. Somebody said you should just have a real hammer.
I'll get a hammer. There's probably one in here. I'll knock over everything.
All right, well we're out of here.
We're smashing windows next week.
No.
That I've heard its terrible howl on the night before Sir Charles died. There is more evil around us here than I have ever encountered before.
The curse of the Hound is on you!
This I think, is a two-piped problem.
This is the usual horror movie ploy of, if in doubt, draft in the tarantula.
Obviously they looked to the Conan Doyle title which had the most horror possibilities, and they then pep it up in a very wonderful Hammer way.
Andre Morel has a tremendous quality of being ordinary and extraordinary at the same time.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was not knighted for inventing Sherlock Holmes, but the world knew him for little else.
It gives me a chance, for one of the few times in my life in front of a camera, to play the romantic leading man. He was a very tall, thin man with a long nose like a beak, which jutted out between two keen grey eyes.
Let loose the pack!
Elementary, my dear Watson. Elementary. A muffin?
Okay, guys, the next one is the pick a movie. And it was Cody Parwicka, and he picked THX 1138 by George Lucas. And, this is really bad. I had never seen this movie before. It was on, the list to check out. I've seen parts of American Graffiti and obviously the Star Wars films by Lucas. And, I know his involvement with Indiana Jones. He's, one of the titans of filmmaking. So this was, I think, his first directed film. Starring Robert Duvall and Donald Pleasance. Right there, that wins me over. Love those guys. So this isn't a futuristic getting a tongue twister there. Totalitarian society. There we go. Finally. Brain not working. Okay, so this is a really strange movie. And I feel like a lot of the stuff in this movie has kind of happened to a certain extent. And that's always kind of scary when we see like a 70s sci-fi movie or something like that. That's like, this is a little too close to reality now than I'd like. So everybody is forced to live in this society where they can't have emotions, they can't express themselves sexually, anything like that. Everybody is shaved bald, male, female, no matter what, old, young. And Robert Duvall lives with a mate. They pair people up that basis on who they are. They feel they'll get along. So he has a female mate. And she starts to kind of feel a little different, and that kind of stop taking her medicine that suppresses her emotions. And she starts to feel different. Robert Duvall does the same, and they start to have a love affair and question things. And I love the fact that when Robert Duvall goes to confession, and he goes to this weird kind of electronic Jesus and talks to him. It says, "You're doing a great job," and stuff like that. But it's also like recording him, so everybody's constantly watched. You're never not watched. And the work they do is highly sensitive, so he needs to be kind of subdued to a certain extent, is what they're what they say. So he's doing like nuclear reactors, and everybody, and in a way this reminds me a little bit of Paul Verhoeven, because when tragedy happens, like 300 people died today, and it's like no one cares, no one has emotions, no one has feelings. But what happens is Donald Pleasance decides to do something illegal. He's a little higher up, and he wants Robert Duvall as his roommate. So he puts in some orders to get him switched over. It makes Donald Pleasance very creepy, and it's almost like, am I watching this thinking that there's this like homosexual thing about Donald Pleasance, especially after watching stuff like Wake and Fright. It's just like got it stuck in my head, made around the same time. So I'm like, Donald Pleasance creeping me out lately. I love Donald Pleasance. I think he's one of the finest actors of all time. But regardless, Donald Pleasance does that, and obviously breaking the law. Robert Duvall turns him in, but Robert Duvall also has a lot of illegal things on his own. Him and his wife plan on escaping. They're both caught. Robert Duvall is put into this weird kind of prison where you'll spot Sid Haig in our very early role. And he notices that Donald Pleasance is also in the prison because Robert Duvall ratted on him for trying to get him switched in the roommates. So they're in this weird white, everything's clean, everything's plain in this movie. They're in this weird kind of isolated prison area where they decide to try to escape. They run into this thing called like it's this man, he's like a hologram, and they see the holograms on television. Their television way is portrayed super strange, super weird, just basically only like violence or sexual thing. It's like one thing, and it's just a hologram. He says he's a hologram, so he shows them the way out. They get into the real world, and everything has a budget in this movie. They send these like security bots after them, and if they exceed budget, they'll just let them go. So you're constantly waiting for them to exceed budget. I've already told too much of this story, but so it's just them trying to escape this weird world, and Robert Duvall keeps going further and further, and it's just a scary, messed up world that no one would want to be a part of, and they're all live subterranean again, and he's trying to make it to the real world. This is the director's cut, and I never saw the original version, so I couldn't compare it, but I did look up some differences, a lot of cuts, a lot of things like that, a lot of different shots here and there, which don't seem to affect it too much, except at the end. They change a rat into a CGI scorpion. This director's cut, I think, was made in like 98. Looks like crap, and then there's these these outsiders they call, that come in, and they're not subterranean, obviously. They're the outsiders that come in, and they're usually played by small people, and they're kind of done hairy and look kind of like apish. But they add a bunch here, and they are actually CGI like monkey things, which look like dog shit. I don't understand this. Like, George Lucas is such a smart guy, such a brilliant filmmaker, and then he doesn't have the know-it-all to be like, who doesn't understand that if you go back and change this stuff with effects from the 90s or whatever, you're going to date it to that time period. I know he's probably thinking my movie looks so dated now in the 70s, but something about that 90s, 2000 CGI and stuff that you date your movies so poorly with, and it stands out. And I was really loving this movie until that, and I just couldn't do anything but roll my eyes. It's like, that looks like shit. It looks like sci-fi caliber CGI in your wonderful art 70s classic film, and it looks like dog shit, and there's no doubt about it. I wish that they would just go back and erase that. I don't mind the other cuts. I'm sure that they some of the stuff helps, maybe, possibly. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but those additional additions of CGI should be illegal. I know it's his movie, and I know that fan ownership is even more disgusting than the CGI additions in movies like this. But still, it's just still enough. I'm not going to be honest. It looks like crap. Sorry. I really enjoyed the movie. Thought Robert Duvall was perfect. Thought Donald Pleasence was perfect. There's this great scene where Donald Pleasence is talking to these children. And, it's all around. It's a damn good movie. Very interesting. Very kind of scary at the same time. 2 sci-fi classics in here that I watched for the first time, so that's really nice. But I hope you guys enjoyed Hammer Time. And you know what? I completely forgot what next week is, so I'll definitely pop up the Hammer Time what's next week so you guys can keep up. But like I said, I posted it on the Patreon so everybody can see it, so it'll be week 5. But I guess we're going to... I'm going to show you the TH trailer right now. What am I rambling on for?
What's wrong?
I need something stronger.
Take 4 red capsules. In 10 minutes, take 2 more. Help is on the way. What's wrong?
Never mind.
What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?
THX, you're entering a critical phase.
Warning.
Do not abandon your post. There is no danger of radiation leakage.
For more enjoyment and greater efficiency, consumption is being standardized.
No, I don't feel well.
Take your sedation.
If you feel you are not properly sedated, call 348-844 immediately. Failure to do so may result in prosecution for criminal drug evasion.
My time is yours.
Oh, what is she doing to me? She's an ordinary roommate. I share rooms with her. I think I'm dying.
Could you be more specific?
They've been watching us.
No one knows. No one can see us.
This is City Probe Scanner. We've run across some illegal sexual activity.
We could leave.
I'll never make it the way I am now.
THX 1138 will be taken into custody. Everything will be all right. We are here to help you.
Where's LUH? She was here.
It's all right. Everything's fine.
Oh, you're wrong.
heading outside the city. Repeat, he appears to be heading outside the city.
You have no plan at all.
Congratulations. Be efficient. Be happy.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that trailer. We're going to hop into the pick-a-movie. The first bag's almost done. Mark Hyder, I don't think is going to get to me because he doesn't have a Facebook, and I have no way of getting in touch with him, so I guess he's getting skipped. We got 2 names in here, and then we're going to go to the second bag, and that'll be it for these. Machete Saint. So, Machete Saint, if I can find you, let me know. Because some of these names, it's hard to find everybody. And then there's only 2 more names in there after... Oh, 1 more name in there after that. So, Machete Saint, let me know. I guess we're going to hop into the questions. What do we have here? Questions. Nick Moore, if you had a chance to work for any major Blu-ray release companies, Severin, Arrow, Scream Factory, Criterion, what would you pick? I pick Vinegar Syndrome because I know a couple of them. I've been around them. I like what they do. They do some of the best work. The stuff they release are movies that I would kind of be somewhat familiar with or discovering. Vinegar Syndrome all the way. If someone hired you to write, direct a horror short inspired by Wizard of Oz, what would that look like? I probably would go off the cuff and not have any of the characters from the actual... I would just place it in that world and maybe have like the monkeys chasing someone. I would definitely incorporate the monkeys some way in kind of a horror way. You said you like revenge movies. How would you go about getting revenge? I would have to know what the people did to me before I could even think of that. So I need a scenario. Because I've grown up watching too many revenge movies and just dessert kind of storylines where I definitely would have to get the right kind of revenge on someone. It depends, but I'm not a very revengeful person. If someone pisses me off, I don't really think about it all day. I get mad for like 10 minutes, might think about it later, but then I don't act upon revenge. It would have to be like, you killed my entire family, and now I'm going to destroy you. It'd have to be like that. Blu-ray collector, how big is your back catalog nowadays, bro? I have no idea. Huge. I should count these one day or catalog everything, but it's just I don't have the time anymore, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, last week I asked you guys if what one director that you never got the appeal of. I don't want to be negative, but hey, I did. Jonathan Woolham, one director I cannot stand is Herschel Gordon Lewis. I cannot get into his movies, much like Andy Milligan, but at least there is some fun in his movies. I feel the same way. Nick Moore, though I've enjoyed his acting on occasion, I never got all the hoo-ha for James Franco as a director. I feel a lot of his scripts are transgressive and controversial just for the sake of being transgressive and controversial. He wants to be an artist using those old shortcuts, shocks and nastiness, and surprise, surprise, tormented gay guys. I don't know if I've ever seen any of his directed movies. I might have, but I do enjoy his acting. But he's such a weird person. Viper Rose, 1978. The one filmmaker I never understood the appeal of, and apparently I'm not alone, would be Michael Bay. He's pretty much the only director I will never give another chance. I can feel you there, but I enjoyed like The Rock a lot. I love The Rock. So, Domino D, to answer your question, one director that I never got the appeal of is Mario Bava. I understand why he is well respected and liked, but I just couldn't get into his movies. Huh? I'm just messing with you guys. I'm sure people feel that same way about me when I'm like, I don't care for Herschel Gordon Lewis movies, but Bava, at least you know he's a legend, right? Front Desk Matt, thanks for having. This is Matt from the last show, but he's got a question. He answers the question here, but I'm going to read his whole thing. Thanks again for having me tag along. Always happy to spread the word about Other Side of Hell. One thing I forgot to mention, but should have, is the huge difference between Other Side of Hell and Cuckoo's Nest is that at least in the stage play version, most of the patients are there voluntary, not the case in Other Side of Hell. They are there by court order. That is true. If anybody is actually interested in the story it's based on, there is a good 2-part interview called The Bill Thomas Story. It's on YouTube. Quite interesting. As far as your question goes, I can't think of a director I completely hate. Might hate most stuff by them, but usually there's some exception. With Joel Schumacher, he's got Lost Boys. I like. Even Michael Bay had The Rock, perhaps a guilty pleasure, but I can't deny it. I agree. Even though I dislike almost everyone he does these days, I like Tim Burton's early work. I will say, though, it usually takes me a couple watches to appreciate Wes Anderson or the Coen brothers. I can always tell they're well-made films, but I don't usually get them the first time around. Wow, I went on there. Sorry for being long-winded. Well, no, that's all right. So I guess we're going to... Actually, no, I always do that. I'm going to ask you the next question of the week. Question of the week is your favorite heavy metal horror movie or rock and roll horror movie. You know, think of stuff like Shock 'em Dead, Hard Rock Zombies, anything. Deathgasm. Let me know your favorite rock and roll or heavy metal horror movie. I guess Demons would even count in that, right? But we're going to hop into the update. Okay, guys, let's hop into this update. First is by Lucio Fulci, and this is Touch of Death by Raro Films. Yeah, with the slipcover there. You know, I don't think I've ever seen this one. I think this is the one that... that's Cat. It has clips. Cat in the Brain has clips from it. So that's the other cover that Raro... or 88 Films released. So, yeah, I have that one as well. Not seen this one, so I am definitely interested in checking it out. Any Fulci that's released on Blu-ray, I buy, like, immediately. I just can't help it. I gotta support Fulci, even though he's dead. I just like his movies. So, then we have this from Warner Archive, a triple feature of Shaft, Shaft's Big Score, and Shaft in Africa. I've never seen the Shaft movies, but hell, I had this DVD, and I have the Blu-ray now. I want to check them out. Richard Roundtree. Yeah, all 3 movies in one place. That's pretty cool. Then we have Evil Aliens, the unrated and theatrical cut on Blu-ray. I never saw this. It's by Jake West. He also did Dog Pound, which is a zombie movie, a British zombie movie. This one looks fun. It has both cuts on there, so I want to check it out. I have the DVD, just never got a chance to watch it. Then we have Stephen King's The Mist on Blu-ray. I have the DVD of this, but I wanted to check out the black and white in HD. So, yeah, cool. I remember really liking this one. I saw this in theaters, and I remember it. So I look forward to revisiting. And I'm going to watch the black and white one for sure. All those podcasts talking about 22 Shots, Horror Mafia. Everybody seems to love it. I always enjoyed it, but I want to revisit. So then we have Hard to Kill with Steven Seagal. Yeah. Ordered a couple more Seagal stuff. I decided, why not have all the good Seagal on Blu-ray? I don't really like Seagal, but he usually lines his movies, like all those 90s action movies, with really good side actors, or the action's at least decent. Not watching for Seagal, watching for the action. Then we have There Will Be Blood. Yeah, I seen this when it came out. I really liked it. Wanted to revisit. I figured, if I'm going to watch a 3.5-hour movie or whatever it is, it's going to be on Blu-ray. Love the performance by Daniel Day-Lewis in this movie. There was a scene in that movie that stuck in my head forever. Never forget it. And then we have... This one I heard a lot of good things about. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Heard good things about this one. I like the story of Jesse James and Younger Gang, so I wanted to check it out. Heard it's a good contemporary Western. But yep, that's that. And I guess we're going to hop back to the video. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching, and as always, you guys have a good one.